Good evening, guys. Yesterday I covered what are the goals of performance testing for an already existing application and a newly developed application, right? And uh, and one more thing, I have created a playlist URL. I had shared it in the WhatsApp group, right? So once you click on the playlist URL, so you will be able to access all the videos in that for your batch, or you will be able to access all the videos in that playlist, right? Clear, guys? And once you confirm your joining, I will be adding you to this WhatsApp group. So this is March 2023 batch WhatsApp group, guys. Okay.
Okay, Pawan.
So here is the playlist URL. You see over here, right? This is the playlist URL. So once you click on this playlist URL, you will see all the videos of your batch like this, right?
Okay, sir.
And once you confirm your joining, I will be adding you once you confirm your joining. So I'll be adding you to this WhatsApp group. Confirm your joining in the sense once you pay the fee amount. Okay. You will be added to this WhatsApp group and you will get access to the private videos. All right. Only demo sessions will be uploaded as public videos and rest all the important sessions will be uploaded as private videos and you will be given access. Right? Clear, guys? And
Yeah,
in this
clear,
weekend,
Pawan.
this weekend I will provide, I'll assign you week one assessment. As I mentioned in the demo session, so we'll be having weekly assessments, right? So, and this weekend I will be giving first week one assessment. So every week you will have one assessment. So which you will receive. You will receive a link on your mobile as well as your email ID. So, right, and I cannot share again and again. So you have to do it. You will have only one chance to attempt that exam, that week one assessment every week. Anyways, so I'll share it now. I'll share the week one assessment on this Saturday, so that by that time I'm planning to complete all the important questions or all the important concepts covered in that week one assessment. So yesterday we stopped it here, right? So we discussed what are the goals of performance testing for a already existing application and a newly developed application, isn't it? Now today let's see what are the different types of performance testing. I'll explain what are the different types of performance testing, and we will have some Q&A session, right? And I'll show you some graphs, and you need to identify what does each graph represents, right? In interviews, some interviews ask this question. Some interviews ask you what are the different types of performance testing. Not only that, they will ask you to draw the graph. They will not draw the graph and ask you to ask you to, they will not draw the graph and ask you to identify, but they may ask you to draw the graph on your own. Okay. So that's the reason we have this exercise, right? So we'll do that after, after explaining what are the different types of performance testing. I'll go ahead and, we will have some Q&A session. Okay. Right. Now let me go to slideshow mode. And this is a logo that I'm using for my YouTube channel. If you observed, right? So the logo contains the important types of performance testing. The logo in my YouTube channel, logo of my YouTube channel contains this image, right? So basically it contains the important types of performance testing. So previously I used to use this for the WhatsApp group also. Anyways, I'll use it. I will, start using it again. Okay. Now, what are the different types of performance testing? So very important question for interviews as well as very important concept for performance testing. So let me go to slideshow mode. All right. So the first type of performance testing, there are different types of performance testing. As you can understand, by this time you should have understood that there are different types of performance testing. So the first and foremost one is load testing. Right? The first and foremost one, the top one is load testing. Right? So load testing is something which we do with expected or normal user load for 1 to 2 hours. 2 hours, right? Load testing is something which we do with expected or normal user load for 1 to 2 hours, right? And it is the first and it is the important type of performance testing which should be performed before doing any other testing. Okay, this is the first and foremost one. The next type of testing is soak or endurance test. This one, you see that green color, right? So the second type of performance testing is soak or endurance test. Okay. So what is the meaning of endurance, soak or endurance? See, the meaning of endurance is longer duration or durability. Endurance, the meaning of endurance meaning. Durability. Okay. The ability to endure or the capacity of something to last or withstand to last. Means general meaning of endurance is durability. Now, soak or endurance test, we know this is a long duration test, right? When you are doing soak or endurance test, right? So it is a long duration test. So how long that duration it depends on the business hours of the application. We'll discuss that in the next slide. So that duration, so when you say long duration, how long that long duration is, that depends on the business hours of the application. We'll discuss that in the next slide. So for now, remember that. So long duration test is called as soak or endurance test. Hold on, I think some people are still waiting for, people pinging me about the class timings. Seems like they are waiting for notification. 1 second. So these are the first and foremost important ones, important types of performance testing: load testing and soak testing. And any applications require this load and soak testing. Any application require this load and soak testing. Not all applications require all the testing, all the types of testing. Means ప్రతి application అన్ని టెస్ట్లు అవసరం ఉండదు. Okay, but however, so load testing and soak testing is required for any application. Okay, that's why I have marked them in a different color, and these are the important ones to denote that these are the important ones. Okay, and I have kept in the beginning. The next type of testing is stress testing. So stress testing is something which we do with more than normal load on the application, right? More than normal load on the application. So ఏ applications అవసరము stress testing? Suppose if there is a travel application, right? Whenever there is a festival or a vacation, you will have more than normal load on those applications, right? Whenever we have a vacation, right? Whenever we have a festival or a vacation, so any travel application will have more than normal load on the application, right? So those type of applications require this stress testing also. Along with load and soak test, they require stress testing also, right? The next type of testing is spike testing. So spike testing, best example is Tatkal booking for IRCTC. So what happens when a Tatkal window opens guys on IRCTC? Tatkal window opens 2 times in a day, right? Daily? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
1 time.
Sir.
2 times, right?
1 time.
Only once?
Only once,
Only
like
once.
half an hour before.
I mean,
What?
there are 2
At
times.
what time
Firstly,
Tatkal
sleeper
window
and
opens?
9 to 11, sir.
9 to 11, 2 times.
Now it is 9 to 11.
9 to 10 is AC, 10 to 11 is non-AC.
11 non-AC.
Right, right. So whenever the Tatkal window opens, there will be, so all of the users, who want to book a ticket, they will try to log in at once, right? Immediately after the Tatkal window opens, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes.
and that spike will be there for a shorter duration, isn't it? So max, in 20 minutes or 15 minutes, that Tatkal tickets will be over. Tatkal quota will be over, isn't it? Yes or no? Right?
Yes, sir.
Or whenever there is a flash sale or big billion sale, also, like we will have a spike in the user load, sudden spike in the user load, isn't it? Whenever there is a flash sale or big billion sale on e-commerce applications like Flipkart or Amazon, so we'll have a sudden spike in the user load, isn't it? What is the meaning of spike, guys? What is the general meaning of a spike? Spike means a sudden surge, isn't
Sudden
it?
increase.
Sudden
Sudden
increase.
user load
and sudden down.
Right.
Downfall.
A sudden increase in the magnitude, right? A sudden increase is called as a spike. So these kind of applications require spike testing also, along with load testing, soak testing, and stress testing. So these kind of applications require spike testing also, right? Which kind of applications? IRCTC or e-commerce applications like Amazon and Flipkart, isn't it? Right? So these are next to two important types of performance testing. So other than that, we have couple of other types of performance testing like volume testing, scalability testing. Not so important, but these four are very important: load testing, soak testing, stress and spike testing. These are very important, and the other types of testing are required based on the application. Right? It depends on the application purely. So the next type of testing is volume testing, and volume testing is load test with expected load and huge volume of data in the database. If you are doing a load test with expected load and huge volume of data in the database, that is called as volume testing. Clear, guys? The next type of testing is scalability testing. So testing an application to verify how much it can scale. And this is testing for an application for future user load, right? So let's say, Facebook has around like 20 million users across the world. Currently, the user base for Facebook application is some 20 to 30 million. And because smartphones, everyone is having smartphones, right? Switching to smartphones. So by next year or by 2024 or 2025, there are projections that Facebook user base will increase by some 50%. ఇంకో 50% పెరుగుతారు ఇప్పుడున్న users. Right? Now Facebook has to test whether their application supports that future load or not, isn't it? They will be feature ready. That means they will keep their application or they will keep their infrastructure ready to support those additional user load also, right? So testing the application for future load and to verify how much it can scale, how much an application can scale. Means can scale means what is the maximum load that or whether it is scalable or not, whether the application is scalable or not. That is called as scalable testing. Okay, and there are few more PT test types called as failover testing and capacity testing. Failover testing and capacity testing. So what is failover testing? Okay, so I'll do one thing. These two are not so important. I'll move to the next slide. Okay, so we'll discuss in detail about load testing, soak testing, stress testing, spike testing, and then at the end we will discuss what is failover testing, okay, and what is capacity testing, right? So any queries, guys, before I move to the next slide?
No, sir.
So in the next two slides, I covered what are the different types of I covered these different types of performance testing in detail. As we discussed, right, load test is the first and foremost one. And load testing generally simulates current user load on the system. System means nothing but application. Load testing is something which we do with current user load or normal user load, right? And it is usually done for 1 to 2 hours. When you say load testing, you usually do it for 1 to 2 hours, right? And it ensures that the application is stable and can handle expected peak load. This is to make sure that the application is stable and it can handle the expected peak load. Application means whatever application you are doing performance testing, right? So this load testing is done to ensure that the application is stable and can handle expected peak load, right? And it is a mandatory test that should be done prior to any other performance test type, right? I just now told you, right? So when I explained, so it is a mandatory test that should be done prior to any other performance test type. Okay, so if in the interviewer asks you what are the different types of testing, you have to mention this load test first. Okay, one mistake that I observe in most of the students is they will talk about stress testing, spike testing, and then load testing. No, so that is not a correct order. So because load test is the mandatory one and that is the first and foremost one, so you should start with load test and then soak test, and then you have to mention stress test and spike test. Okay, the next type of testing is soak or endurance test. So as we discussed, it is a long duration test, and how long that duration depends on the business hours of the application. Business hours of the application. What is meant by business hours of the application? And that longer duration can be 4 hours or 8 hours or 16 hours, 1 day or 3 days, etc. etc. It can be 4 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours or 16 hours, right? It depends on the business hours of the application. Now let's understand what is meant by business hours of the application. What is meant by business hours of the application? So let us take some examples. So let's take some example like Amazon or Flipkart. So usually what is the from what time to what time Amazon application will be used, guys?
From 9 to 9.
Okay.
24 hours.
Evening 9. Okay. Yeah. So let some more examples. Let's take Big Basket or something.
Big basket.
You know Big Basket or no? It's an online application for groceries, right? So Big Basket was acquired
Morning
by
6 to
Tata Group. Huh?
6 to 9.
6 to evening 9. Yeah. So those are the tentatively those are the business hours of any application, right? That is what business hours means. Means from what time to what time this application will be used. Now let us take a banking application. Let's take a banking application like not a net banking application. So let us take you went to a bank and the bank employees will be using some application, right? Bank employees will be, if you want, so for bank employees will be using some core banking application like Finacle. You remember I mentioned it in the demo session, right? What is
Yes, sir.
Finacle?
Yes.
What is
It is
Finacle?
developed by Infosys and
Right.
one
So
system.
Finacle is the core banking solution which is developed by Infi. This is a product of Infosys. Finacle is the product of Infosys. Okay. Now let us take this example, Finacle example. So from which time to which time the bank employees will be using this?
9 to 5.
From 10 to 5.
10 to 5. Right.
Hmm.
So 10 based on the banking hours, business hours of that bank, isn't it? So if you take LIC application, LIC, let's say you visited a LIC office, Life Insurance Corporation in India office, and from what time to what time they operate? They strictly operate from 10 to 4, isn't it? 10 to 3:45 or something, or 4:30, whatever it is. Previously, the timings used to be 10 to 3:45, but I think recently they changed. They got a holiday on Saturday, and their timings are changed, isn't it? So let us see LIC in India office hours or working hours, right? Revised working hours. So 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday. Saturday. No, these are not correct. These are not correct. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is not correct. Okay. So 10 to 4, something I remember that as 10 to 4. Okay, 10 to 4:15. Okay. Now those are the business hours those are called as business hours of that application. Understood, guys? At that time, there will be having more number of users. All the employees will be using that application. So those are the business hours of that application. Clear, guys? Okay. There will be some applications like which will be working from only 10 to 3. Or suppose you have some government of commercial tax office. So it may operate during a fixed timings. Okay. Or there may be some applications which will be working till half day only. Right. So those are business hours. That is the meaning of business hours of the application. How many hours they will be using, they will be having more number of business. Right. Now, so some applications may be used for only 4 hours, or some applications may be used for 8 hours continuously. Some applications may be used for 16 hours continuously. And some applications, if you take Flipkart or if you take Facebook or Twitter, right? So by the time users in one location, users in one country stop using it, users from some other country will start using it, right? Yes or no? If you take Facebook application, so by the time we stop using it in India, users in US or some other country maybe start using it, isn't it? So for those kind of applications, we have to test, continuously we have to do this endurance test for at least 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, right? So basically, what is the purpose of endurance test? When an application is used continuously for longer hours, so how is the performance of the application? Or if there are any performance bottlenecks like memory leaks or connection leaks when an application is used continuously for longer duration, right? When an application is continuously used for longer duration, how is the application performance? And if there are any memory leaks or connection leaks, that is the main objective of doing this endurance test. Okay. And the duration depends on the business hours of the application. Okay. Is it clear, guys?
Clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And next type of testing is stress testing. I want to quote some examples. So when I worked for Bank of America, right? So I worked on an application called payments application. So for just like our Finacle application, Bank of America has their own application called payments application, which was developed by Bank of America employees. Okay. So we used to do smoke test. We used to do that soak test for 16 hours for that application, because that application will be used across like approximately like 40 to 50 countries at that time when I was working, right? So there was an application for processing the payments, fund transfers, bill payments, salary processing, right? So when I was working on that application, doing performance testing for that payments application, we used to do that soak test or endurance test for 16 hours, 12 to 16 hours, because it's not limited to 8 hours. By the time we stop using it, some other users from some other country will start using it. That's why we used to test the application for 16 hours, 12 to 16 hours. Okay. The next type of, so it purely depends on the business hours of the application, depends on your application, whatever application that you are testing. The duration depends on the application that you are testing, right? And the next type of testing is stress testing. So stress testing is done by gradual increase of user load until the application breaks, right? That is the meaning of stress, right? What is the meaning of stress? What is the general meaning of stress? So pressure or tension, pressure or tension, or more than something, more than normal, right? More than normal, isn't it? So what type of applications require this stress testing, or what is the purpose of stress testing is? It is to identify an application's breaking point. Breaking point means, what is meant by a breaking point? Suppose there is a gradual increase of user load on the application, and at some point it breaks down. Breaks down means it starts throwing errors, or it starts giving high response times, right? So to find out the application breaking point, we do this test called stress test, and that is done by gradual increase of user load. Okay, that is done by gradual increase of user load. We'll see that once we start test executions, we'll see that how to do this test, how to see the spike test and all. We'll see those guys. Okay, but for now, is the concept clear? Is it clear that there are different types of performance testing, and each type of performance testing has a different purpose, different reason, or right, different purpose. So main purpose of stress testing is to identify an application's breaking point, right? The next type of testing is spike test. So spike test, how does we do spike test is, we suddenly increase the user load beyond expected load for shorter duration. Spike test is done by sudden increase in user load beyond expected load for shorter duration. Okay. So that is called as a spike test. So we just now discussed it, right? What is the general meaning of spike is sudden increase, isn't it? So when you are doing a spike test, right, first we go to the normal load or expected load, and then we suddenly increase the user load. So how to increase that user load and all, we'll see that practically. So once we start the test executions, right? The next type of testing is volume testing. So volume testing is done to verify the response times when there is huge volume of data in the database. So volume testing is done to verify the response times when there is huge volume of data. What is, what is the reason for doing this volume testing? Is so if you take any application like e-commerce application like Flipkart or Amazon, right? Or if you take any net banking application, any of these examples are big basket application. So whenever you place some order, number of records will be inserted into the database, not just one record. Okay. Let's say you placed an order on Amazon or Flipkart or big basket application. Okay. You place an order on Amazon application or a big basket application. Records, some new records will be added to multiple tables of the database, not just one table. Okay. Orders table okkate undadu. There will be a lot of records, related tables, and multiple records will be inserted into the database. Now, when our users are accessing the application continuously, number of records in the database will be increasing, right? Or when you are using any net banking application also, suppose if you do a fund transfer or if you do a payment, right? One or two records or n number of records will be inserted into the database. Whenever you do some fund transfer or bill payment or any loan payment or credit card payment, right? Multiple tables will be updated, multiple records will be inserted into the database. So as users are using the application, number of records will be inserted into the database and volume of data will increase. Volume is nothing but number of records. Number of records, that is called as volume. So data volume will increase. Now, when there is less data, when there are less number of records in the
Hello,
database.
Pawan sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
your voice is breaking in between. Means not getting
voice-
properly.
Is my voice breaking for everyone?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
No, it's not breaking.
Okay, maybe it's a
I
issue
can
on
hear
your,
you clearly, Pawan
on
sir.
your side, Satish.
Yeah, now it's clear.
Okay, so it may be issue on your side. Some if you are seeing some intermittent issues, maybe it's issue
Yeah.
from. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I see someone joined with display name as Purnima Verma. Who is that? Disconnected. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Sudarshan. Sudarshan, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. I was on mute.
Okay. Okay. So this is the first session that you are joining, right?
Yeah, this is my first session.
Okay. So those who are joining online, right? So please, before joining, so please check your internet connection quality, guys. Okay. So how to check that internet connection quality? Observe here, I'm not talking about speed. I'm not talking about internet connection speed. Okay. So I'm talking about internet connection quality. So how do you check the internet connection quality? Is there is something called ping time. So this is important. So ping time means reaction time. You see here, right? Ping ms is 3 over here. The value is 3 milliseconds. Ms stands for milliseconds. And what is this ping time? Ping time is nothing but reaction time. You see a tooltip over there, right? నేను కర్సర్ పింగ్ మీద పెట్టినప్పుడు చిన్న బాక్స్ వస్తుంది కదా రియాక్షన్ టైం అని. సో దిస్ నెంబర్ షుడ్ బి లెస్. ఇట్ షుడ్ బి a single digit ideally. Okay. So if it is a double digit, also that is fine. But if it is a triple digit, right? That means your internet connection quality is not good. ఈ పింగ్ టైమ్ సింగిల్ డిజిట్ కానీ డబుల్ డిజిట్ కానీ ఉండాలి, లోవర్ డబుల్ డిజిట్ ఉండాలి. అగైన్ 80, 90 అలా ఉంటే దట్ ఈస్ నాట్ గుడ్. ఓకే. సో ఇది ఎంత తక్కువ ఉంటే, ఈ వాల్యూ పింగ్ టైం వాల్యూ ఎంత తక్కువ ఉంటే అంత ఇంటర్నెట్ గుడ్ క్వాలిటీ అన్నట్టు. క్లియర్ గైస్?
Yes, sir.
So this is the measure of internet connection quality. This ping time is important rather than download and upload time. Download time, upload time, even if you have 20 Mbps, 10 Mbps also, that is fine. Absolutely fine. But this is important. Can you please check everyone so that you will not forget that? So please go to speedtest.net, open a tab, new tab on your browser and go to speedtest.net, click on that go button and observe what is the ping time of your connection, internet connection. So what is the ping time that it is showing for you, Satish?
Yeah, checking. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, everyone, please check it once. And remember this ping time. You are still not seeing that value, Satish?
Yeah, it's loading.
Okay. Or maybe you are using internet connection in your PG, right? Maybe it's not good, not that good, because many people will be sharing that, right? PG will have some
Yeah.
people watch movies, listening songs, etc. Right? They will be consuming.
Yes.
What is the value that you are seeing for ping time?
I'm not getting.
Okay. Okay. So use your mobile data otherwise. Okay. If you
279. Same time.
mm-hmm.
279.
Oh, 279. That is the reason, right? So that means your internet connection is very slow. Internet connection quality is not good.
Yeah. I will connect it now.
Yeah. Okay.
In online participants, you missed to write my name.
What is it?
In your checklist, sir.
Uh-huh.
మీ చెక్లిస్ట్ లో నా నేమ్ రాసుకోవడం మిస్ అయ్యారు సార్
Okay. Okay.
ఆన్లైన్ పార్టిసిపెంట్స్
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll update it. Thanks for reminding. I'll take a screenshot generally and I'll update it later. All right. Now volume testing is done to analyze the system performance by increasing the volume of data in the database. By increasing volume of data in the database, right? And next type of testing is scalability testing. Scalability testing is performed to identify if the application is capable of scaling up in terms of user load. Means, so what is the maximum load? How far the application is scalable, right? To test that, we do this scalability testing. Okay. And the last type of performance testing is failover testing. So what is this failover testing? So failover testing is to verify the system's ability. System means application, guys. Verify the, let me update it. Verify the application's ability to continue day-to-day operations while the processing part is transferred to a backup environment. So what is this backup environment? We need to understand what is this backup environment and what is failover testing, right? So any application, be it like a Big Basket or Amazon or Flipkart or any other application, there will be one main environment and one backup environment. There will be one main environment and one backup environment. The reason is, see, for example, our SBI, let's take, for example, State Bank of India. So State Bank of India, what is the net banking application of State Bank of India? Some online SBI.com, isn't it? Online.sbi, online SBI.sbi. This one, right? So they have their headquarters in Mumbai. Previously, like of course, now also SBI has its headquarters in Mumbai. And previously, before moving to cloud, right, they used to have their main environment in Mumbai headquarters. Okay, of course, this is before cloud came into picture. We'll discuss that how cloud has changed the entire landscape. We'll discuss that later. How this AWS cloud, GCP cloud, how they changed the landscape. We'll discuss that. So, but before when I was working for Tech Mahindra used to do performance testing for this SBI, and they have their main environment in Mumbai, right? So Tech Mahindra has set up one ODC for them, offshore development center. We'll discuss that later. So the point here we want to understand is any application will have a main environment and a backup environment. Because if you remember, we had some floods in Mumbai, right? Severe floods in Mumbai some 2 years back. That's all. Mumbai floods 2022. Is it in 2022 or 2021? Yeah, 2021 Maharashtra floods. Right. So when we had this floods, right? So it almost like there will be interruption to all the power. There will be power outage. There will be interruption to the normal life for days together, isn't it? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So see, from July to August, they had floods, it seems. 22nd July to August 2021. Right? So there are severe floods over here. Right? Or in Japan, we have earthquakes, right? We have frequent earthquakes, isn't it? In US, we have some natural calamities like hurricanes. We call that as hurricanes, isn't it? In US. So what happens, suppose, because of Mumbai floods, they went up from July to August. Now there will be power outage and for days together, and there will be normal life will be interrupted a lot, right? Now, but so that is only in Mumbai, but rest of the country maybe, should continue using this net banking application. Yes or no? Maybe users in Mumbai only will not be able to use this net banking application, but rest of the country should be this application should be available for rest of the country. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Or in Japan, whenever you have an earthquake in a city where some company is operating, the rest of the country should be able to use that application, right? That is called as continuity of business. That is called as continuity of business. Right? So for that to continue the business, right, they will have a backup environment in some other location. Means this application, any application will be running on servers in some other city, some other geographical location. Any application is not just SBA. Any web application should have a backup environment in some other geographic location to continue the business. Because rest of the country should not be impacted. The whole country should not be impacted because they have to continue with their day-to-day life operations. They have to do fund transfer, bill payment, etc., isn't it? So that's the reason any application will have a backup environment. So if you take some example, real life example, so if you don't want power interruptions at your home, so you'll set up some backup environment, right? You'll have a power backup, isn't it? You'll buy an inverter and you get it installed, isn't it? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? Now, let's say you bought an inverter and your technician came to install that inverter, isn't it? And he gave all the connections. He will not give connections to each and every point, isn't it? Yes or no? So he'll give connections to the important point, electrical points, whatever you want, you ask, isn't it? So one light and one fan in each room. And before, once he is done with the installation, right? What he will do, guys, before he leaves or before you make payment to him, what do you expect him to do?
To check, sir.
You will expect him, or he generally checks. How does he check that? How does he check that if the inverter is working fine or not? Or
By,
if the installation is correct or not?
by turning off our main.
Right. So he will switch off the mains power and he will see whether all the important connections or electrical connections are working on the inverter or not. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. The electrician or the technician will switch off the mains power and he will see whether all the fans and lights, important electrical points are working on the inverter or not. And then he will switch on the mains power, isn't it? Right? So failover testing is something exactly similar to this. Similar to that. We will start the testing initially so that all the users, all the user load will go to the main environment, right? And after some time, we will stop the main servers to verify whether your backup environment is working or not, right? When your main environment is down, right, your backup environment should be working, isn't it? So
Yes, sir.
failover is used to verify the application's ability to continue day-to-day operations while the processing part is transferred to a backup environment. That is how we do failover testing. This is something similar to the testing which an electrician does after installing the inverter at your home, inverter or a generator at your home. Clear, guys? So
Yeah.
this is called as failover testing. Okay. Now, any queries, guys? Do you have any queries to discuss or whatever concepts we covered today, right? Do you have any queries or doubts on these concepts? If not, we'll go to the graphs. I'll show you some graphs and you need to identify what does that each graph represent. What type of testing does that graph best represents?
Okay.
Okay. Shall I move to the first graph? Yes. So before that, let me explain this. I need to explain few things, guys. So observe here, on x-axis, we are representing duration, test time. And on y-axis, we are representing virtual users. Virtual users means users who are using the application. They are not real users, but they are virtual users. We discussed in one of the previous session, right? So how do we do performance testing? Let me go to that, okay, once. Let me quickly go to that once. So we do performance testing by simulating important business flows of the application, and we generate the virtual user load, right? They are not real users, but they are virtual users. Okay. Now, if you observe the graph, right, on x-axis, we are always representing test duration, test time, right? All the graphs. Clear, yes. And on y-axis, we are having different parameters. Here on y-axis, we are having virtual users or user load. Understand this as user load. Now, what does this graph best represents? What type of test is this?
Stress.
So,
Like
yes.
Stress
Spike.
test.
It might be load or stress test.
Stress test.
sudden increase in the load.
I am hearing three answers.
Gradual
Load,
increase is
stress,
there,
and
sir.
spike.
Stress.
So gradually increasing load test.
Okay. So what does this graph best represents?
Spikes.
This graph best
Spike.
represents a spike test, right?
Yeah.
So if you observe here, there are two spikes over here. See, if you assume that this is your normal user load, okay? Okay, let me do one thing. So if you assume that this is your normal user load, right? There are two spikes over here for a shorter duration, isn't it? There are two spikes for a shorter duration, right?
Yes.
So this graph best represents a spike test, isn't it? I think, I will reorder these graphs. Maybe, that will be more helpful. I'll do one thing. First, I will keep load. Yeah, okay. Now, hold on 1 second. Yeah. Now, what does this graph represents?
Load test.
Load test.
Load test.
So this graph best represents a load test, because the reason is, if you observe here, duration is mentioned as 1h. That means 1 hour. Okay. Duration is mentioned as 1h. That means 1 hour. Approximately. This is not exactly 1 hour. You see this tilde symbol, right? This symbol is read as tilde. T-I-L-D-E. Okay. Locate the tilde symbol on your keyboard, guys. See, where is that? Tilde symbol on keyboard. Right? So this is tilde symbol. Clear, guys? So that means approximate. What does that indicate? Is approximate. Okay. So the test duration is mentioned as 1 hour approximately. So this graph best represents a load test, and this is called as hold. So this is called as ramp up. Means we are increasing the user load gradually. Why are we increasing gradually? Any application, see, if you take Big Basket or Amazon or Flipkart, all the users will not start using it at once, right? Morning 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 11, and everyone will not use that, right? At once. Yes or no? Some may be using it at 6 o'clock, some may be using at 7 o'clock, some may be
Yes, sir.
using from 8 o'clock. So that is why we gradually increase the user load. This is called as ramp up. This is called as ramp up.
Ramp up.
This is called as steady state. That means there is no change in the user load from here to here. This is called as steady state. And this is called as ramp down. Okay. Ramp down means we are decreasing the user load. Users ni gradually decrease chestunam. Ikkadi nunchi ikkadi varaku. This is called as ramp down.
Ramp down.
So this graph best represents a load test, because particularly it's mentioned here that the duration is 1 hour, isn't it?
Sir.
That's why this graph best represents a load test. Now, if you assume this as your normal user load, there are two spikes in between for shorter duration, isn't it? So there is sudden increase in the user load for shorter duration. So this graph best represents a spike test. Now observe this graph. What does this graph represent?
Stress.
Right. So stress testing is something which we do with gradual increase in the user load. We just now discussed, right? Stress testing is done by gradual increase of user load, isn't it? So if you observe here, we increase the user load from here to here, maintain some steady state. Again, we are increasing user load, isn't it? Again, we are increasing user load from here to here. Again, we are maintaining some steady state. Again, ramp up, again steady state. So we are gradually increasing the user load here, right? Isn't it? So we are gradually increasing the user load. This is ramp up period. This is called as steady state. Again, this is ramp up period. We are ramping up users or adding the user load. Again, this is called as steady state. Again, ramping up users. Again, steady state. Right? So we are gradually increasing the user load. And what is the purpose of doing this stress test?
What is the breaking point?
To identify the breaking point of the application. What is meant by breaking point? ఏ యూజర్ లోడ్ దగ్గర ఎంతమంది యూజర్స్ యాక్సెస్ చేస్తుంటే అప్లికేషన్ బ్రేక్ అవుతుంది ఆర్ అప్లికేషన్ స్టాప్స్ రెస్పాండింగ్ ఆర్ అప్లికేషన్ స్టార్ట్స్ థ్రోయింగ్ ఎర్రర్స్, రైట్? సో టు ఫైండ్ అవుట్ దట్ వీ డూ దిస్ స్ట్రెస్ టెస్టింగ్. క్లియర్ గైస్?
Yes, sir.
Now let's move on to the next slide. So what does this graph represents?
Shiva.
Endurance test.
Shiva. What
What does this graph best represents?
Endurance test.
Soap test as well.
Yeah, because
So
you know this graph best represents a soak or endurance test because the duration is mentioned as 5 hours, isn't it?
Sir.
Right? The duration is mentioned as 5 hours. So this graph best represents a soak test. Now the last one. What does the next graph represent? Observe here. The reason why I explained x-axis and y-axis is on y-axis we have something different here. Data quantity or number of records in the database. Data quantity means number of records in the database. Now what does this graph best represents?
Volume test.
Volume testing, right? So this graph best represents a volume test. Okay. I have found some images on the internet and I have removed that, actually here it is mentioned for each graph, it is mentioned here. So I just, used those graphs. Got it, yes? Right? So in interviews, they will not show you graphs. Then please remember that. They will ask you to draw the graph. They will ask you to share your screen, or they will ask you to get some pen and paper, or if you are attending nowadays, all are face-to-face interviews, right? So they will ask you, you will be carrying a CV, right? So on the back side of your CV, or they will get some bunch of papers, and they will ask you to draw some graphs. Okay. First, they will ask you what are the different types of testing that you have done in your project. Then you will explain load test, soak test, and spike and stress, whatever you have done in your project, right? And then they will ask you to draw the graph for each type of test. So that is the reason I have added these graphs. Okay. So I'll stop it here, guys, for today. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Put that in the recording. So if you observe here, like I have added a note here. When I shared this material, I have added a note, right? I have added this note. And not only myself, follow almost all the established trainers are following this. In fact, ఈ note అది కూడా నేను వేరే వాళ్ళ దగ్గర నుంచి తీసుకున్నది అది కూడా, right? So Midun Technologies ani there is some DevOps training institute. From there I took this wording and all.
Midun
And there are
Technologies, Bangalore, Pawan, I think.
Midun Technologies is in Bangalore, yes.
Bangalore.
And Isha training, that is in Hyderabad, right? So
Isha.
they also follow this. So all copyrights belong to the trainer. You are not supposed to download the videos and share it or sell it to anyone. This is for your personal use only. And particularly, I am giving some examples. If your spouse want to join the training, if you are married and if your spouse want to join the training, inform me. Please just inform me that we are joining. Myself and my spouse is joining. That's it. That's enough. Okay. I will not ask you to pay the double fees. But you have to turn on the camera. Don't play hide and seek game with me. Got it, guys? And if you are not married, so your own brother and sister can attend, and they can also utilize the training material and but they have to join from one location only, right? So అంతేగాని మా బ్రదర్ పూణేలో ఉన్నాడు, బెంగళూరులో ఉన్నాడు, తను అక్కడి నుంచి జాయిన్ అవుతాడు, నేను హైదరాబాద్ నుంచి నేను ఆంధ్ర నుంచి జాయిన్ అవుతానంటే నో, దట్ ఈస్ నాట్ యాక్సెప్టబుల్. క్లియర్ గైస్? సో ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ టుగెదర్, if you are joining from a single location, single login is allowed. Clear guys?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, clear bounds.
Yeah. So we are giving these exemptions anyways, because I can understand that one brother or sister unte, I can understand that. So even if I am in your place, I would not like to pay double fees. So those exemptions are allowed. But if anyone is violating any of these terms and conditions, no fees refund in such case, and I will be filing a legal complaint also. Okay, on those who are violating the terms and conditions. And if the case comes for hearing, they have to come to Hyderabad. That's what this sentence means. If you file some case, wherever they are, they have to come to Hyderabad. Okay, if there is any legal litigation between, it is subject to Hyderabad jurisdiction, means a case can be filed only in Hyderabad, because I am based out of Hyderabad. All right guys, so please understand. So we put a lot of effort and time in preparing the training content and preparing the weekly assessments and reviewing your scripts. Script review is something which no one does in the online trainings, and that is something which I have started like 3 years back. Got it guys? మీరు చెప్పుకుంటూ పోతారు, మీరు స్క్రిప్ట్ చేస్తున్నారా లేదా, కరెక్ట్ గా చేస్తున్నారా లేదా, ఎవరు చెక్ చేయరు. No one will check that. Show me one institute, online training institute, who does that? No one does that. So there is a lot of effort, time and effort involved in this. So please understand that, and don't do those cunning things and those nasty things. Got it guys? If you are really interested to learn and get a placement, if you are really interested to help someone, refer them for the training and get some referral amount, good referral amount, so that you will be benefited and they also will be benefited. Okay guys, so I'll stop it here for today. And how do we, we will automatically find out them if you share it to someone else. Sometimes we will get a share request from some students to whom we haven't added, right? So వాడు ఎప్పుడో అప్పుడు బై మిస్టేక్ వాళ్ళ మెయిల్ ఐడి నుంచి యాక్సెస్ చేస్తారు, then we will get an alert like this. Okay, there are some mails which I don't want to show their names and all, right? But we'll get an email saying that someone is trying to access. If that guy is not our student, we'll understand easily that someone is sharing the training material to your friends or members. So please understand that how much effort we are keeping in giving these trainings, running these trainings, and please don't do those malpractices. And if you find anyone who is doing these malpractices, if you share some evidence, I will give you 1 lakh reward amount on the spot, because we will file a case for 20 to 30 lakhs. Okay, loss of business and Japani, we will file a complaint for 20 to 30 lakhs on them. So meeko on the spot 1 lakh is, but of course that will take a lot of time. Not only now, ఇప్పుడే కాదు, 4-5 years తర్వాత ఎప్పుడు దొరికినా సరే, we get some evidence, we will go file a case on them and we will get the compensation. All right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.